Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. On this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place in the world during the previous 24 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Middle East, where according to information we have, the United Arab Emirates Murban crude oil, a key Middle East indicator, has exceeded $120 per barrel. According to information we have and according to same sources, WTI crude has exceeded $118. Brent crude has exceeded $118 as well. And these are the biggest prices since the beginning of 2022. All these things are happening due to the worsening of the situation between the coalition and the Iranians. During the previous 24 hours, we received reports that United Arab Emirates and Kuwait start oil outputs cuts after Hormuz blockade. The United Arab Emirates and Kuwait started reducing oil production as the near closure of the crucial Strait of Hormuz ripples through energy markets and affects global supply. And this is, for example, the video of the previous 24 hours in the area of the Strait of Hormuz. As you can see, the situation hasn't been changed. We see a lot of vessels, lots of tankers to the south east of the Strait of Hormuz, and we have lots of vessels to the southwest of Strait of Hormuz, and nobody, neither from the west nor from this, are able to cross the area. But at the same time, we start receiving very interesting updates on this matter. For example, we received reports that the United States of America, or the coalition, according to different sources, began bombing and attacking the Iranian vessels. So there are no more military ships near Iran that could be attacked, and now the coalition is targeting oil tankers in Bandar Abbas, southern Iran. Early morning airstrikes, presumably carried out by the US Navy, and targeted a number of commercial ships in the southern Iran, in the Strait of Hormuz and near Bandar Abbas. The parties are actively mirroring each other's actions. The US has not taken any action regarding the oil terminals in Khark Island yet, but has started actively targeting oil tankers that export oil from Iran. So the situation is as following. According to information we have, there is an island of Khark which is located in the southwestern parts of Iran. So this is the island we are talking about. And when the conflict between Iran and the coalition began, the Iranians blocked the Strait of Hormuz, but several days ago we started receiving reports that the Iranians continue export of oil, of crude, mainly in the direction of China. And during the previous days we received lots of photos that confirm the situation. For example, in this photo we can see a Khark Island taken on March 7, 2026, and this picture shows 3 tankers being loaded up with oil or waiting to be loaded up with oil. When Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, it closed it for every other Persian Gulf country, but its oil tankers passed through the strait without any problems. This shows that China continues to receive some oil from Iran despite the ongoing war. But from the other side, we see that the coalition began bombing and attacking not just military infrastructure of Iran, they began bombing and attacking oil infrastructure of Iran as well. But for some reason, the coalition avoided attacks on the island of Khark. And today, several experts and military analysts reported that the coalition most likely is considering the possibility of seizing Khark Island, Iran's main oil export terminal. The island processes about 90% of Iran crude oil exports, making it the country's most important economic source of income. And this is the reason why the coalition is not destroying this infrastructure, because if the infrastructure of this island is destroyed, then it will take years, maybe even billions of dollars and years to restore the infrastructure of the city, and obviously neither the Iranians nor the Americans are interested in this situation. But at the same time, we start receiving reports that most likely the coalition began bombing and attacking the Iranian tankers that are moving in the direction of China. So all these things are pushing the price for crude up. Another important thing is that during the previous 24 hours, for the first time since the beginning of the conflict, the Tehran, the capital of Iran, oil infrastructure was significantly damaged. I believe you've seen these videos, these scenes where the infrastructure of oil infrastructure of the city of Tehran was destroyed and heavily damaged. Later we received lots of videos, lots of pictures with fire. We can see the consequences of this attack, and this attack also pushed the prices up. Another important thing is the consequences of this attack. For example, this is the picture that we received from the capital of Iran this morning. Here we can see smoke, black smoke covering the city of Tehran. Obviously, this is a very bad situation. Furthermore, we start receiving videos and pictures of acid rain fell in Iran following strikes on its oil storage facilities. So the situation is very complicated, and at the same time the Iranians are intensifying their attacks on not just on the military objects of the coalition but also on their economical assets. And this information was also confirmed by different sources. Iran is expanding its list of targets, going beyond military facilities and including economic assets and strategic interests of the US in the region, according to the source quoted by Fars News. And during the previous 24 hours, lots of attacks and strikes once again were carried out through the Middle East. The sources reported that the Iranians attacked the state of Qatar, Bahrain, and for example, in this video we can see an oil refinery in Bahrain that was attacked allegedly by Iran. The refinery processes up to 267,000 barrels of oil per day, and its main fuel source from the US Navy's Fifth Fleet. Another important thing that the Iranians attacked once again the US Fifth Fleet base in the area of the same region. So more videos were published from this territory. Once again, all these attacks are doing just one thing. All these attacks are pushing the prices for oil up, and these different experts this morning stated that it's very likely that the price for oil can exceed $250 per barrel, which means that this is going to be not just a big number, but this is going to be the biggest energy crisis through the entire world. Anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next, but because despite all these attacks, despite all these videos and the economical crisis, we see that both the coalitions and the Iranians are using less and less missiles and drones every single day, which means that both sides have problems with this. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates. According to information we have and according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, during the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians used hundreds of drones to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia. For example, between the 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., between the 8th of March and the 9th of March, the Russians managed to bring down 163 drones that were flying deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation. The Russians destroyed drones in the direction of the city of Moscow, and the Russians destroyed lots of drones in the direction of the southern regions of Russia. Furthermore, between 2 and 6 p.m., the Russians destroyed another additional 170 drones, and most of them were destroyed at the same direction, in the direction of Moscow and in the direction of the southern regions of the Russian Federation. So due to this number of drones, we expect that in coming days, the Ukrainians will use their Flamingo missiles or their attack drones to attack in the direction of the central or the northern parts of the Russian Federation that Russians use to produce missiles and military vehicles and military arms for the needs of the special military operation. At the same time, the Russians also attacked the territory of Ukraine, but the Russians used less drones for these purposes, and this morning pro-Ukrainian sources stated that the Russians used 199 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. The Russians were attacking mainly objects of energy infrastructure, and the Russians were using mainly drones of different types. And during the nights and this morning, we received lots of updates, lots of videos and pictures of what exactly the Russians have attacked since the beginning of the 7th of March of 2026. I would like to remind you that the latest massive missile attack took place exactly between the 6th and the 7th of March of 2026, and the Russians were attacking objects of energy infrastructure. And as we discussed during that attack, that in coming days we would receive additional pictures to understand what exactly the Russians were trying to destroy. As of the previous attack, massive attack, the Russians attacked the city of Korostin, and today we have satellite pictures that show the difference between the dates. According to information we have, the Russians destroyed or damaged significantly this object of military facilities, some plant that the Ukrainians were using to produce probably fuel for missiles or something like this, and as you can see, the construction was damaged significantly. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the Dniester power station, which is located in the southwestern parts of Ukraine, and here we can see the changes between the dates, between the 26th of October and the 8th of March. According to these changes, the Russians managed to damage the central part of this facility, most likely dealing significant damage to this area and to this object of energy infrastructure. Furthermore, as for the previous nights, the Russians attacked mainly the Poltava region, so this is basically the central part of Ukraine, and the Russians were attacking objects of gas infrastructure. And more precisely, the Russians were attacking this facility, which is located in the northeastern parts of the region. So this is the video that was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how exactly the Russians were attacking this object of energy infrastructure. We see that this object is very big, and the Russians are saying, and the Ukrainians confirm this information, that the Ukrainians were using these facilities for gas production purposes. And as a result of attack, as we can see, this facility was significantly damaged, and we have a fire anomaly picture that shows that more than 50% of this facility is covered with a very heavy fire. Most likely both the Russians and the Ukrainians will continue attacking each other during these days, and these attacks also affect the prices for oil. At the same time, the ultimatum issued by Slovakia, the Slovakians and the Hungarians, expiring in coming hours, and according to information we have, the Hungarians and the Slovakians will impose additional sanctions on Ukraine. Most likely they will cut supply Ukraine with critical energy and critical electricity. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Donetsk direction, Donetsk-Dnipropetrovsk area. During the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians attacked the city of Donetsk with cruise missiles, and we have lots of videos and pictures from this area. So in this video we can see the Donetsk airport that was destroyed in 2014-2015, but now the Russians are trying to build this airport for military purposes. The Russians use this airport to launch drones deep inside of the territory of Ukraine, and during the previous 24 hours, during the previous 48 hours more precisely, we see that Ukrainians attacked this territory with missiles, and as a result of this attack we see that Ukrainians managed to deal damage. Most likely the Russians were using this facility as a warehouse, as a storage. They were keeping drones there, collecting drones there, and most likely the drones were destroyed. Few more missiles moved further in the southeastern direction, and the sources reported that as a result of attack, the Ukrainians also destroyed or even damaged some building in the northern parts of the city, and these are the consequences of Ukrainian attack that took place during the previous 48 hours. As you can see, huge territory was significantly damaged with missiles, with cruise missiles, either of Ukrainian or the Western productions. Another important thing is that almost at the same direction, in the same area, the Russians are intensifying their offensive operation in the direction of the city of Dobropolye and deep inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region. So these are the changes on the ground between these dates. As you can see, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly since the beginning of March of 2026. Almost every single day we were adjusting the map in the Russian favor. This is the end of the 3rd of March. The Russians are about to finish the battle for Grishina. This is the end of the 4th of March. The Russians improving their positions, and we start receiving first videos confirming this. Furthermore, the Russians conducted reconnaissance operation in the Mizhova direction using hundreds of drones that Ukrainians were trying to destroy, trying to cut the Russians with these possibilities, not to allow them to collect and to gather survival information. Later we received the report that the Russians began their offensive operation, and lots of changes have been made. So this is the end of the 6th of March, and this was the date when we received for the first time reports that the Russians are about to establish complete control over the settlement, and several pro-Russian sources confirmed that the settlement of Grishina was captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. This is the end of the 7th of March. The Russians improved their positions significantly in the village of Novopodgorodnya. The Russians improved their positions towards the settlement of Sergeyevka. Several sources stated that the Russians entered the village of Sergeyevka from the southeast. This is the end of the 8th of March. The Russians are keeping advancing along the main lines between Grishino and Sergeyevka, and this is the beginning of the 9th of March. So the sources are saying, the pro-Ukrainian military experts are saying that this military campaign, spring-summer military campaign of 2026 is the last military campaign of the Russian Federation. And the military experts, pro-Ukrainian military experts, are saying that after the end of this military campaign, the Russians either would be forced to freeze the conflict along the current line of combat contact, or the Russians would be forced to announce mobilization. So let's wait and see, of course, what is going to be next, but obviously the situation is getting very difficult, and we see that the Russians are moving further deep inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region with the purpose to outflank the Kramatorsk-Slaviansk agglomeration and to create a foothold before moving further in the western direction towards the cities of Dnipro and Zaporozhye. As for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were also recorded. The Russians are trying to improve their positions in the southern part of the city of Konstantinovka, but we see that this is a very difficult task. The Russians are trying to push the Ukrainians from the southern part, but the Ukrainians, as we can see, despite problems with logistics, are staying on their lines and trying to control the situation as long as possible. As for the northern directions, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received almost anything special. There are very heavy clashes. The Russians are attacking the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kharkiv direction. For example, in this video, we can see how the Russians discovered a HIMARS system of the armed forces of Ukraine, and then as a result of attack, this HIMARS system was destroyed. The Russians destroyed this system with the Geran drone, and here we can see proofs and videos that confirm this. Furthermore, the Russians continue attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the area of the Pechenegi water reservoir. There is a very big forest that most likely the Ukrainians using to keep their systems hidden from the Russian satellites and from the Russian drones. Furthermore, the Russians attacked another object of energy infrastructure in the northeastern parts of the city of Kharkiv. We are talking about local substation. So obviously, one thing is clear, that the northern directions are going to be very important directions for the Russians for the 2026 military campaign. And that's it for the short video. During the military summary, channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.